Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Podcast Daily. Happy Monday. Happy start of a new week from Berm, Bill Landis, and myself, Austin Ward. We're back at it, and these guys have no idea what I'm about to ask them. Berm's excited because he wants to not know the topics in advance. We said this many times. We don't script anything. We're also going to have a fun, casual conversation later at Roosters. They don't know what we're going to talk about then either, and I'm going to try and figure it out. So I guess my question for you guys, after 82-55 on Sunday for Ohio State, losing at Purdue, losing yet again, let's rewind to last summer. And the Ohio State football team's claim that it could beat the Buckeyes. Was it as crazy as the basketball team made it sound?
I'm going to start. I guess I'll start. Number one, yes, it is as crazy as they make it sound. The football team would do a good job from a physical standpoint, I think, containing them early and beating them down a little bit. But eventually size and skill will win out. And I think that the shooters that the basketball team has are better than the bangers that the football team has. If that, you've got guys like Jack Sawyer and Cade Stover and Jaden Ballard, who's certainly a freaky athlete, but I don't know that he's a guy who's going to be able to step outside the arc and really beat you with the outside shot. And I don't know that I admittedly I haven't seen everyone on the football team play basketball, but I do think that the basketball team would still win that game pretty handily.
Yeah, I agree. It's a fun conversation. It's a little disrespectful, I think, to the basketball team. But
I think that was the best.
Yeah, they've earned.
I think that was the basketball team's problem with it when it was last summer, and right. Now you see some guys who are no longer at Ohio State, like DeJuan Jones, who was very vocal about that before, doubling down in the midst of these struggles for Chris Holtman's crew.
I guess the way I view it is like there's a difference between being a pretty good basketball player and even like being a very good, excellent athlete, and then being a good enough basketball player to beat a Division I basketball team, regardless of how flawed that team might be or how crappy their season might be at the moment. So if we were to analyze the guys that the football team at that point last summer would have put on the floor, how many of them actually were good enough to play Division I basketball? DeJuan?
Josh Proctor, potentially. There's 360 Division I basketball teams, right?
All right, Big Ten level basketball.
First, before we do that, we have to figure out a lineup for the football team because
we're going to do that. Sorry that I didn't give you a script for the show. We're going to get to that. I promise you.
It would be very difficult. It would be very difficult for this current Ohio State roster. Let's take the Sunday game against Purdue as the okay, here's this team to guard DeJuan Jones in the post. Like that'd be a challenge without Zed Key. Obviously Felix Akpara is a freshman, very
that is not a good matchup.
Doesn't have the upper body strength that you'd think would be necessary. So that's a challenge. Obviously having a guy like Sonny Styles on the wing is a game changer a little bit. He's athletic enough to do some things. I'm not sure anyone on the basketball team could guard him, but I'd like to see him and Bryce Sensabaugh go at each other. Like that'd be worth it to me. I guess we just need to figure out the lineup here.
Okay. Well, I think that's part of the fun is that the longer that I thought about it, and I actually asked a couple other guys on the football team recently for an updated lineup because I didn't know how much pickup basketball the football team actually played. It turns out it's a pretty good amount until mat drills start, and that they really love to go out and ball. And so I asked for some feedback on what that lineup would be. And
that's good journalism.
Yeah, well, I didn't come in half-cocked into this one. Obviously, we're working off of last year's roster, so DeJuan Jones was included. There were people that wanted to include Paris. I'm not sure why. I think probably just for size. Wouldn't want his skill involved.
No.
I'm going to set him aside. So CJ Stroud, Josh Proctor, Sonny Styles, Cade Stover, those guys all came up. Jackson Smith and Jigba got some love. Julian Fleming, I guess, is considered somebody who loves to play and wants to be part of that off the bench. Spoiler alert, he was one of the people that I talked to about this. So he put himself in the mix. Right now he's dealing with a shoulder injury. Don't think we can put him on the floor. Jaden Ballard. So like it got to 9 or 10 guys, and JT Tuimoloau, I think maybe first and foremost out of the skills and power combo. So there's a 10-11 man rotation that is going to be physical. To your point, both you guys made this point. Is it Division I, Big Ten skill? I mean, they're not spending every single day of their lives working at the highest level in basketball. I know that part of this.
Are we sure that this basketball team at Ohio State is? Because you sure about that? Are you sure about that? I'm not sure about that. I've certainly seen them play more skilled basketball in Columbus than we've watched in the last 8 weeks. But that is not a bad group. I mean, the thing that the football team would have is that they are much more physically dominant than the basketball players are. I don't think that a guy like Eugene Brown would handle JT Tuimoloau very well. So, I mean, I think that you have some matchup challenges for the basketball team in the paint. But again, basketball, if we're playing full court 94 feet, I think that the basketball players are going to wear them out eventually.
I forgot about JT. JT is a guy who, had he just dedicated himself to playing basketball, would probably be playing basketball at the high major level, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
DeWand is close to that, maybe more like a MAC guy than a high major guy, but still good. Sonny is probably the freakiest athlete of anyone we're talking about. So I don't know. Now it's like it's not such a ludicrous notion in my mind. I don't like who guards Bryce Sensabaugh. Like who stops Bryce Sensabaugh from scoring 70 points when those teams play each other.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that's the Sonny matchup. I mean, I really feel like
put Sonny on.
I think that this is something that Sonny, Bryce, if you're listening, this isn't meant to be disrespectful to anyone. We certainly don't want anyone to twist an ankle right now. You know, spring practice is about to start. You're in the middle of the Big Ten season. But if we could just arrange.
Well, no, that's over. Buddy, that's over.
They're still in the middle of it. If we could arrange a best, first to 11 type of game between Sonny and Bryce, just one-on-one, so I could see that play out, then I could feel better about how the rest of the stuff would go. Because I think that's the problem. I don't think you stop Bryce from scoring a lot of points.
So here's my idea. Cardale Jones has his softball game in the summer. It's going to include current players for the first time ever. There's got to be an NIL bonanza to put together a charity basketball game. All-Star game's going on Sunday night. The celebrity game was pretty interesting. I think Bill wagered on it. I couldn't while I was in Texas. A lot of interesting stuff going on there with DK Metcalf on the floor. We got to get this together, right? Like in the middle of May, they have plenty of time in case somebody rolls an ankle. I really want to see it now. I've talked myself into it. I also know that it is like saying, can the best team in college football go beat the worst team in the NFL? I know that they're comparing different things. Yeah. I know that this wouldn't happen, but I'm really interested in it now.
It would never happen because if the football team won, it would be a disaster. Like basketball can get chippy real fast. Like it's not softball. Softball, there's a little bit of distance in between everybody. It's a little more passive. The second someone gets shoved a little bit harder than they care to be on the basketball floor, that game has the ability to ratchet up in physicality very quickly in a way that I don't think anybody wants.
I think it's also just a reminder of how desperately this current basketball program needs someone like Cade Stover on the roster, because like you need someone that's just willing to throw a punch. You don't want him to do it, but you want to know that he's there and willing to in the event that it occurs. You don't want him to do it, but it's good for the team that you're playing against to know that it's possible. I think what's actually funny about that is we could talk about football and basketball, but then if you took the entire football team and the entire basketball team, and you took these 140 total athletes and you put them against the best pitcher on the Ohio State baseball team, how many guys do you think could get one hit?
Wow, that took a wild swing.
I just
Berm
think
just
it's
wants
funny.
to talk about how good of a kicker he was.
I just think it's funny because like athletes, we all know how good of athletes these guys are, but the sport, the translation and the skill is so different. But back to the football, I'd like to see Jaden Ballard against like Roddy Gale. Like there's some one-on-one matchups I'd like to see, honestly. And DeJuan Jones against Zed Key when they're both like healthy, I think that'd be a fun matchup to watch. I don't think DeJuan would be ready to come back for any sort of charity event, though.
Yeah,
I think
probably
those two
won't
guys
need
will give
that
each
soon.
other buckets.
They're not going to go bang. I don't think Zed wants any part of a 6'8", 390 pounder.
No one does, but
yeah, that's true.
I mean, that is an interesting conversation. I don't want to be disrespectful to the basketball team because those guys are. I know that they're in the middle of.
You already did. You said that they haven't been spending any of their time preparing.
No. I said they're not spending all of their time preparing. That is a major difference. That's a major difference between not spending any time. But clearly, these guys, we're in the midst of watching the worst stretch of Ohio State basketball since 1996, and it's like, what can you do but really make fun of it at this point?
Yeah, I mean this is the state of things. They lost by 30 on Sunday, and after the game, Chris Holtmann says like, "I thought we played well, and like there were stretches where we played really good." And like I found myself agreeing with him.
Yeah,
and they still lost by 30.
Hey,
to a Purdue team that frankly is like kind of a one-man show with Zach Edey. Now he's the size of 6 men, but he's a one-man show, and like it's not the most dynamic team in the world. They play really good, like team-oriented basketball and system-oriented basketball. But like I thought Ohio State played one of its better games, like in this stretch of being lousy, and they still lost by 30.
They competed, and it's unfortunate. I really think, and like I know that people hate when we talk basketball on this show, but if you could go back to that first game against Purdue and the way that the Buckeyes lost that game, something snapped and broke that day, right? Something broke that Thursday night. Something broke that Thursday night against the Boilermakers 2 months ago. And you hope that they can find a way to just like win a game down the stretch here. Like just one, just come back and win something. Maybe win a Big Ten tournament game for posterity's sake and to make yourselves feel better. But this has been a rough stretch, and it has to be hard for these guys to watch Twitter and see DeJuan being like, "Oh yeah, we could beat them, definitely." Like that is sort of like, "Ooh, come on, man, don't do me like that. Come on, Jimmy Fallon, don't do me like that." You know what I mean?
But the reason that I brought it up is also because, Berm, you said that people don't like it when we talk about basketball on the show, and we know that that's true from the numbers, and you also know that I don't like to bring it up on the show. But I mean, I saw that Bill was getting a number of questions about it over the weekend, especially after Thursday night. That was like, why is nobody calling out the Ohio State administration or Gene Smith for the extension? I'm like, I don't know. Do we have to do it again? Because Bill and I have both said that several times. I wrote about it before the extension was even public a year ago in March. We had a full show on the podcast daily about 3 weeks ago. I don't know. I guess if we have to say that it was dumb again, we can, but it won't change anything. I said that again to Bill last week. Like the extension's done. Like the die is cast here. There's no way that they thought it could possibly be this bad, right? But if you guarantee that you're not going to get fired to somebody who hasn't actually accomplished anything of substance, this is what you get. It can't come to as any surprise. So like, what good does it really even do for me to say anything? Like, it won't change anything. It's done.
How many games are left in the regular season? Like 4?
Yeah.
Honestly, at this juncture, if you're Chris Holtmann and you're Gene Smith and you're they started 4 freshmen at Purdue on Sunday. All 5 freshmen need to start the next 4 games, and that's pretty much it. There cannot be any explanation or reason to play the other guys that much at this point. So you want to make sure these freshmen don't leave. They know that Chris Holtmann's not going anywhere. You brought in a bunch of one and done type transfers with the intention of saying, hey, maybe we can make a run. You can't. That's over. Now you have to give the ball to the 5 freshmen and say, this team is going where you guys take it the rest of the year, and you're the focus moving forward. Just assuming, thank you for your service. You've done a great, you've tried. You went through some challenges. Zed Key, your shoulder is obviously not capable of competing right now. get healthy for next year because they will need you. But right now, like, it's just give it to the 5 freshmen and run from there. I just don't see any other way to handle these next 4 games, 5 games when you include the first game of the tournament that they'll likely lose and then be done. So I hope that, I don't think they really listen to us much, but I would hope that that's something they're considering doing.
I would think that he is, like, the change to put Roddy Gale in the starting lineup. They had to play Felix Akpara at Purdue because of Zed's injury. I would imagine that Zed's not going to play the rest of the year, so that decision is almost made for you. And then you want to play Bowen Hardman. Like, I don't know. I think it's been fairly well telegraphed that they view Bowen Hardman as a step or two below the rest of the guys in that freshman class. But there's no harm in letting him play at this point because, to your point, Berm, like, all those transfers they brought in, with the exception of Tanner Holden, I believe, are out of eligibility after this year anyway. So ride with the guys that you hope are going to be part of the core for next year. You cannot lose that group. If you lose that group of freshmen, like, you're in a bad spot. And you can't salve as much. I suppose that they have 4 left, 3 are at home. I don't look at any of them as being particularly winnable. Maybe Penn State, although Penn State's played some pretty good basketball this year too. So I'm anticipating that they lose the final 4 games and then probably lose their opener and don't win another game the rest of the year. I think we should have been at this point probably 2 weeks ago with just fully embracing the freshman class. And I think Chris Holtman was hesitant to do that because he was still holding on to something. But clearly we're at that point, if not past it now. And you have to do everything within your power to make sure that group of freshmen stays on the team.
Yeah, you play the 4 freshmen, you play Tanner Holden, you bring in Hardman off the bench, you let Eugene Brown come off the bench because he'll still be on the roster. Like, other than that, I mean, I don't see any value in giving the ball to Suing or to Sean McNeil, who's played well in the last couple of weeks. But at this point, there's no value there. So, the value is get as many minutes for the young guys as you can, figure out if they can cut it. If Bowen Hardman can't cut it, you're going to find out in the next 4 games, 5 games. And then if he looks elsewhere, he looks elsewhere. That's just the way it has to go. And then hope that you don't run into the football team, at the rack.
Pick your starting 5 from that football team. Bill, go.
DeJuan, clearly. JT, clearly. Sonny, absolutely. The thing that scares me is, like, when you get into guard play, like, who are your ball handlers? I guess, like, Jaden Ballard can be like a 2 guard, and I don't know. CJ, I remember watching CJ's high school basketball highlights, and they weren't bad. He's a little bit of a playmaker, and he's a quarterback, so I'm assuming he has good floor vision. So I'll put him at the point and hope that he is not a gun who takes every shot.
Well, we know he likes to, thread the needle out there. He's not afraid. He's got no conscience.
I mean, I think you put JT out there. I'm not going to count DeJuan because he's moved on. I know that he was the genesis of the conversation, but I'm not going to count him.
CJ, I believe, started it. At Big Ten Media Day.
I'm not going to count CJ either because I just don't want to. JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer sharing duties at 4 and 5. I'm going to put Stover out there at the 3. I'm going to put Sonny at the 2, let him kind of be the guard, the slasher out there, and then let Jaden Ballard run the point because he's the most likely to be able to do so. We don't know a lot about some of the other basketball talents on the team, but I'm sure there's other guys that can handle a rock, but I'm going to stick with those guys.
I got to see Proctor out there just because the athleticism that I've talked about for going on 6 years. The first time that I actually met Josh Proctor, I went and watched him play. It was a basketball practice, and I guess that's just the bias that's going to stick into my brain. I know that he can do it. The guy was scoring 20 points a night in very competitive basketball in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I also know that scene quite well. You got to be a real star to play in Tulsa. There's just no question about that. So
you know what? Can I add my 6th man would be the incoming freshman Lincoln Keenholz. I think he could probably run the.
Oh yeah, he can play. Yeah,
I'd put maybe Lincoln at the 1 and rotate in some of the other guys around him because he looks comfortable with the ball and certainly explosive enough to be a difficult cover out of the top.
We went almost 20 minutes into the podcast daily and didn't even talk about Lincoln Keenholz's dunk that's going wild on social media. And I even threw this topic out there. I have failed. That's just bad point guard play by me.
It was a good dunk. here's the thing. I don't know. The man's playing high school ball in South Dakota. So
I don't care where you're playing. You intercept a pass out at the top of the key and you go 54 feet and then windmill dunk it. Like, you got to be a dude. Like, that's not that wasn't a guy struggling to get the ball over the rim. I mean, or 2 foot dunking. That was a freaking windmill from the elbow. Like, that's a bad dude.
Yeah, elevation, regardless. From the elbow, he jumped
not
from the
all
elbow.
the way from the elbow, but you know what I mean. Pretty close. That's what happens. South Dakota, the elevation's different. You have a little bit longer runway that you can stay in the air just a skosh longer. That's the science portion of the program. For those out there wondering, math is coming up next.
Yeah, don't fact check any of that. Or any of the rest of the show, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're really sorry, but it is this offseason has been so boring, so boring. But we're doing the best we can.
We're 2 weeks
worse,
in a
right?
day.
It could be worse.
It could be. It could actually be interesting right now, and that would be a problem.
Yeah, if it was interesting, it'd be even worse.
2 weeks in a day. Spring ball will start, and I promise we'll start talking about real football more as we go along. Bill and I think we're going to do maybe Berm will even join us. Who knows? A couple more position previews. We're almost done with those. Maybe. How has this become your gimmick? You're not a mime.
I don't know. A mime is a terrible thing to waste.
Okay. Like I was saying, this has been the Podcast Daily for Monday. I guess we'll come up with some other things to talk about this week, or not talk about if Berm decides to fully embrace being a mime, which it seems like he desperately wants to. It's not good podcast content, but we're doing the best we can. That's Berm and Bill. I'm Austin. Thanks for joining us on the Podcast Daily Monday morning. We'll talk to you later.